Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It was the kind of day that felt like the entire state could hear the echo of footsteps on the marble floors. The kind of morning where the air outside the courthouse was so charged that even the press crews whispered instead of shouted, because everyone knew they were about to witness a confrontation that would go down in reality TV history. A showdown so raw, so personal, and so utterly destructive that it would not only redefine Robyn Brown's relationship with Kody, but also shake the very foundation of the Brown family's public image. And as Robyn stepped out of the black SUV, flanked not by security, but by a small group of silent supporters holding folders stuffed with what she claimed were years of receipts, the crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and jeers, camera flashes strobing across her determined face, her eyes set not on the steps ahead but on the heavy wooden courtroom doors where, inside, Kody sat slouched at the defendant's table, arms crossed, jaw tight, pretending to look unfazed but betraying himself with the way his leg bounced under the table, because for the first time in their long and turbulent shared history, Robyn wasn't here to protect him, to back him, or to be his so-called loyal partner. She was here to bury him in evidence. And the whispers started immediately as reporters shoved microphones toward anyone who looked like they might know why. And though no one outside the legal team knew the exact nature of the allegations, the rumor mill churned at full speed. Financial misconduct, hidden accounts, property deals that had quietly shifted names just before the family's infamous Coyote Pass saga. All tangled up in a web that Robyn now seemed hell-bent on tearing apart in the most public way possible. And as she entered the courtroom, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, she didn't so much as glance at Kody, whose eyes darted to her and then quickly away as though the sight of her might ignite him into saying something reckless. But before he could speak, the judge entered, and the room fell into a tense, almost oppressive silence broken only by the shuffling of papers as Robyn's attorney, a sharply dressed woman with the calm, deliberate movements of someone who knows exactly how to dismantle a witness, rose and began a slow, deliberate opening statement that left the gallery hanging on every word. She painted a picture of a man who had not only betrayed his family, but had used their trust as leverage to build a kingdom that benefited him alone. And with every sentence, Kody's posture stiffened further, his eyes narrowing, his lips pressing into a thin, bitter line, until Robyn herself was called to the stand. And in that moment, the years of carefully crafted image work, the demure, soft-spoken, camera-friendly Robyn, fell away, replaced by a version of her the public had never seen before. Unapologetic, fierce, almost surgical in the way she delivered her testimony, her voice unwavering as she recounted dates, numbers, and private conversations that, if true, would not only dismantle Kody's reputation but could open the door to serious legal consequences. And she didn't just tell her story. She backed it up, producing document after document, bank statements with highlighted withdrawals, property transfers signed at suspicious times, even a series of text messages where Kody allegedly admitted to moving money for safety, in ways that skirted the very agreements they'd both signed. And as each piece of evidence was handed to the judge, the murmurs in the courtroom grew louder until the bailiff had to call for order. But nothing could quiet the tension between the two at the center of it all. Kody shifting in his seat, leaning forward as though he might object, but knowing his lawyer needed him silent, while Robyn never once broke eye contact with him, her gaze so steady it was as if she were daring him to challenge a single word. And then came the moment that would later be replayed 1,000 times on social media. The clip that fans and critics alike would freeze frame and dissect. The moment Robyn, her voice finally rising, leaned toward the microphone and said, "You built this empire on our backs, on our sacrifices, and then you tried to erase us." When Robyn stepped down from the stand, she didn't hurry, she didn't avert her eyes. She walked past Kody slowly, deliberately, her heels striking the floor like a drumbeat of finality. In that moment it became clear to everyone watching that whatever personal ties had once bound these two were gone, replaced by something far colder, far more permanent. The knowledge that she had chosen, in full view of the world, to burn the bridge completely. When the session ended, the air would charges follow. Had the Brown family finally imploded for good? And Robyn, slipping on her sunglasses, offered only a tight, knowing smile before disappearing into her SUV, leaving Kody standing on the steps alone, surrounded by cameras but with no one at his side. A man suddenly stripped of the narrative he'd controlled for so long. And as the crowd slowly dispersed, the story had already taken on a life of its own, spreading across news sites, gossip blogs, and fan forums, each one adding their own spin, their own theories about how deep the betrayal ran. But one thing was certain. Robyn Brown had walked into that courtroom to destroy Kody, and by the time the day was over, she'd done far more than that. She'd exposed the shocking truth, and nothing for the Brown family would ever be the same again. And yet, as the doors closed behind Robyn and she disappeared from view, the tension didn't dissolve. It thickened, because the afternoon session was still ahead, and whispers were already rippling through the courthouse about a surprise witness Robyn's team had lined up. Someone who, according to a leak from inside her legal circle, had been on Kody's payroll for years and was ready to speak about behind-the-scenes dealings the public had never imagined. And when the judge returned after the recess, the air in the room was so charged that even the sound of someone shifting in their seat drew sharp glances. And then the bailiff called the name. An older man in a simple suit, no tie, a weathered briefcase in hand, who walked to the stand with the calmness of someone who'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. And as soon as he took the oath and sat down, you could see Kody's eyes widen just slightly, a flicker of recognition and panic he tried to mask by leaning back in his chair. But the damage was done, because everyone in that room now knew this wasn't a stranger. This was someone from deep inside his inner circle, a former financial advisor who had, according to Robyn's attorney, been directly involved in the transactions under dispute. And the man wasted no time. In a voice so steady it was almost unnerving, he began recounting private meetings with Kody, whispered discussions about moving money between accounts in ways that would be hard for anyone, even family, to track. And every word landed like a hammer, especially when he pulled out a set of handwritten notes from those meetings, pages dated and signed, with references to Coyote Pass property divisions, cash withdrawals in the tens of thousands, and even a line about keeping the wives happy until the sale goes through, which drew a collective gasp from the gallery and a sharp objection from Kody's lawyer, though the judge, after reviewing the notes, allowed them into evidence. And as the witness continued, the courtroom's attention kept flicking between him and Robyn, who sat silently but with the faintest glimmer of grim satisfaction in her eyes, her hands folded neatly in her lap, and Kody, who had now abandoned any pretense of looking relaxed and was scribbling furiously on a notepad, passing it to his lawyer in short bursts that looked more like demands than suggestions. But the witness wasn't done. In fact, his final statement was the most damning of all, alleging that not only had Kody used family assets for personal gain, but that he'd done so under the guise of future family investments, a phrase the witness claimed was Kody's code for projects that only benefit me. And when the attorney asked him if Robyn had been aware of these actions while they were happening, the witness hesitated for the briefest moment before saying, "She knew some, but not all."